Man, this is Deion Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on OurScoop.com. You already know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Scoop, the weekly podcast of OurScoop.com. We are on to our 32nd episode of our 11th season. We'll call it the Franco Harris episode, just to circle back to a favorite talking point of Kyle's about the former Steelers running back and what he initially thought his name was. Anyway, we'll get to that in a second. I'm your host, John DeCarlo, OurScoop.com's editor. Very fortunate to be joined today by assistant editor Kyle Gauss, Colin Schofield, and Ryan Mack. Got a fun show ahead for you guys. Have more spring football updates. A little nugget on the quarterback competition, something not earth-shattering, but something noteworthy that Casey Keeler said after Tuesday's practice. We have audio from Carl Hardin, Temple's place kicker, from yesterday's media session, answers to your mailbag question, and a little fun thought exercise. We'll do a little bit of this or that with basketball and football scenarios. So a lot of cool stuff coming your way today. The Scoop, as always, is brought to you by Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured while on the road or the highway and the crash was someone else's fault, the insurance company is not going to be on your side. You need us, Temple Law grads, who will fight hard to get the compensation that you deserve. We only get paid if we win, so in Pennsylvania or New York, call us today at 215-261-7359. That's 215-261-7359. And you can find them on the web at greenspans-law.com. That's greenspans-law.com. Those of you who are interested in subscribing to OurScoop.com, we have a new offer for you. We are running a 50% off spring sale through the duration of the NCAA's transfer portal. This started back in March 16th. It will continue through the end of the basketball transfer portal cycle. 50% off an annual membership. So again, things are going to really start to heat up for this Temple men's basketball roster that we can reasonably assume is going to experience a lot of roster turnover. So take advantage of that deal. Go to OurScoop.com and sign up today. Right, Kyle is doing his thing where he is on Zoom and going through all sorts of little funny images, and he's trying to distract me. There's a bird. He just kissed a bird. He put himself in a frame in an office. He now has a shark mouth and a fin. He's a unicorn. He's a bear.
This is a mouse. Get your,
it's a mouse? Okay,
your
you look
animals
like a bear.
Correct. Oh, yeah. It does look more bearish. It says
Yeah, you look like a bear.
It says mouse.
Okay.
Anywho.
What about that Franco Harris story?
I think it's a perfectly reasonable assumption.
We talked about this before in the Scoop. Do you guys know who Franco Harris was?
Yeah.
Do you know how he spells his last name?
Harris?
Yeah, Harris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you correctly know it. I thought it was Frank O. Harris. I thought it was like an Irish name.
Yeah.
I thought this until about 4 years ago. It wasn't that long ago.
I'm pretty sure he passed away because they were going to honor him for the Immaculate Reception, and he passed away like a week before that one. That's how I remember it.
Ryan, one of the reasons we love you, among others, is because of your bedside manner. That was just beautiful.
Yeah.
No. Sorry, that was awful. I'm so sorry, guys.
And you're from New Jersey too. He went to Rancocas Valley High School, so show a little bit of respect.
My dad used to have a Franco Harris jersey.
Who else went to Rancocas Valley?
Sean Bradley, recent Scoop guest. Yeah. Good opening there. How you guys doing, right?
Doing wonderful.
Colin, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah.
You know who else went to Rancocas Valley? This is the one I was actually thinking of. It's a disservice to Sean Bradley that I thought of this first, but this is who I thought of first.
Temple offensive lineman?
No. You gotta think of the answer.
Think of the answer. Like, isn't Allen Iverson?
Iverson Clement.
Oh, all right. Wherever he is, I hope he's doing well. So, guys are doing well. Kyle's good. Colin, Ryan, are you guys paying attention?
Sorry, I was looking at someone's Instagram for a potential story. I'm going to an Orioles opening day tomorrow.
Always a reporter.
Happy opening night to all who celebrate.
Are you going to the O's?
I was talking about
tomorrow.
They call March 25th, 2026 the unofficial start of the NBA season.
The
So
NBA season?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Paul George back, Joel Embiid back. It's the first 70-some games didn't count.
Are you being sarcastic, or are you actually allowing yourself to get excited?
I'm allowing myself. I don't think the East is
Where's
that
Jacob
good, so I'm
when you
allowing
need him?
myself a little bit of. I'm giving about 3 games to disappoint me.
So Kyle's excited about the Sixers. You're excited about the Orioles.
That's not tonight. The Orioles aren't tonight. I'll be excited about the Braves on Friday. But
Kyle, how do you feel about Jerks and Profar?
were you expecting an emotional reaction from that? I
was
couldn't give
just
less of a
curious.
shit about you. This was the best case scenario for the Braves. They don't have to pay Jerks and Profar this year. Great.
Do they win the division this year, or do the Phillies win it?
Probably the Mets. You think? I think the Phillies and the Braves are both trending the wrong way, as far as eras go. Like the door is almost closed on this era of the Phillies. Very good pitching, very mediocre lineup.
Ryan, over under win total for the Boston Red Sox.
85.
So I mean, I'm going to pretend
85.
that I've studied their roster up and down. I'm going to say that sounds good.
Ryan, remember the time that the Red Sox traded the future Cy Young winner for a utility infielder that they cut 9 months later?
What about when they traded their star third baseman to the Giants for a guy they then flipped for a different player, and they actually don't have any players left from that return?
Yeah. So
And the reason they traded him was to hold on to Alex Bregman, who they didn't even re-sign.
Got a few seam heads on the pod this week.
they're gonna make me cry. The other one you had to bring up was when we us trading Mookie Betts to create space to re-sign Xander Bogaerts, and then them not re-signing Xander Bogaerts and him going to the Padres. Yeah, I do remember all that. I do a lot. Not really happy about it. I'm really sad actually right now.
I think there's a lot of franchises in sports that are like good franchises, but it's in spite of themselves. Like they're poorly run good franchises. I think the Red Sox are a poorly run good franchise.
Yeah, their owners are too busy like focus on their prem team to actually care about the
Right.
Red Sox. It really annoys me.
Well, got some good baseball takes right out of the chute there. We've got some football news to bring your way. Let's start with something Casey Keeler said yesterday. And again, it's logical. It makes sense. I don't want to make this sound like it's this insanely newsworthy news nugget. But one of the things that Casey Keeler did talk about after Tuesday's spring practice was that he does not expect this quarterback battle between Jaxon, Smolik-Ajani, Sheppard to go down to the last week leading up to the season opener like last year's did. So again, last year around this time, Evan Simon was getting reps with the first team. We knew that Giovanni McCoy was coming in August. And as we've said before, it was kind of an interesting quarterback battle. Like it was really kind of, in some ways, hard to tell either way. On paper, people might have thought, okay, Giovanni McCoy at one point was one of the best FCS quarterbacks in the country. Then he transferred to Texas State. Things didn't work out for him at Oregon State, then Texas State. And that came down to the final week. And Evan Simon, of course, goes on to become the starter. Yesterday, when he was talking about it, Casey Keeler said, now that we have both guys here in the spring, I'm hoping that it's going to be something that's resolved sooner. So this is what he said yesterday, hoping that now we have both of them in the spring, and I'm hoping it's going to be a battle in training camp. And I'm hoping, arbitrarily speaking, 5 to 7 days into preseason camp, it's like, okay, we know who our guy is. Let's start getting this guy most of the reps. Or even coming out of this, referring to spring practice, if it's decisive, maybe we feel like we got one guy, but we definitely want to get to a point a little earlier, if possible, that we could say, this is our guy. And again, give him as many reps as possible to get ready for that first game. I think that's so critical. So thought that was interesting. Makes sense. Guys have any reactions to that either way? Or are you just like, yep, good with that, moving on?
I mean, I think I'm good with that. Move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're natural born podcasters. My reaction is just that if you're an optimist, you take that as okay. Like they think projection wise that someone's going to be able to grab that job in the next 10, 15, whatever practices.
Yeah.
If you're a pessimist, you wonder, is that a slight against like the depth that the position might have, right? Like are you able to project and be like, I really think we have like a clear guy and there's a drop off to number 2? From everything that seems to have happened so far in spring, I don't think that's the case. I think it is a true competition, but it's interesting. I found it noteworthy that in March he's making this projection for August.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really good read on the situation.
Yeah, and also kind of going into it, since we do know that the quarterback competition is the biggest thing that's going on in spring camp. They kind of like just be able to be like, okay, we feel like we know that we can have a guy by the time like fall camp hits. Kind of just puts everything dies down. So by the time that fall camp actually is happening, we're getting closer to the beginning of that game against Rhode Island. That okay, there's not too much noise about who the quarterback's going to be. It's going to be okay. How is this team looking? You can get everyone comfortable in that number one offense. So they're not going back if Jackson's going in or no, maybe Ajani's going in. That number one guy can be comfortable in that number one offense, be able to learn the offense a little bit more. All the installs that they need to have in, they can get in. They don't have, and even like the wide receivers don't have to worry about, okay, how am I playing when Jackson's in versus how am I playing when Ajani's in? Getting comfortable with just one quarterback compared to two that they had to do last summer.
I think it's easy if you're a coach to be like, well, it doesn't matter because we double rep, and even if we have two guys, they're both going to get the same opportunity. But in reality, like, it's not oranges to oranges, right? Like, that one side of the field is going to have the number one offense that has different players, and like to that point of just like the coaching staff being able to implement game plans around skill type sets, I think it's always beneficial to have that decision done weeks in advance as opposed to going into like 2017 against Notre Dame. You didn't know we're gonna start all four. We're gonna play all four quarterbacks.
That was just the worst.
And the first snap against the best team we're gonna play this year, we're gonna have three quarterbacks on the field. That was dumb. And 3-4 weeks later, they pulled the plug on that starting quarterback anyway.
Yeah, that was. We could see that coming. I didn't know it would be as ludicrous as it was, but it was.
Didn't they literally line up? The first snap was Logan Marchi, Frank Nutell, and it must have been Russo. We're all in the backfield there.
Yeah, and again, look, I think Jeff Collins did a lot of things well at Temple, and Lord knows that after he left, this program went downhill. But yeah, that was just, I don't want to say peak Jeff Collins, but classic Jeff Collins in terms of like trying to be showy and gimmicky. Let me ask you guys this before we get into some of the other spring football stuff. So because Casey Keeler kind of tossed it out there, I know what my answer would be on this. He said, or even coming out of spring ball, if it's decisive, maybe we feel like we got one guy. Do you think that they're going to make a decision on the starter after spring ball?
No.
Kyle's shaking his head no. Colin's thinking hard. It's like he's looking at algebra.
Harvey is my face looking at algebra. I don't think so. I think it's very different coming back from the summer, or like guys can put in more work over the summer, put on more weight, put on more muscle, like a possibility of that, as well as like I feel like you probably start to install more stuff in the summer and fall as well as opposed to the spring. And I feel like that offers more opportunity to see guys in like the true packages and true stuff they're going to true to his word with this, I think it'll be early in the fall, but I don't see it being decided coming out of spring unless one of them like truly blows the other out of the water in competition. But I don't really see that as a probability.
I still see the benefit of it. It's less of an issue now because there's no longer a spring transfer window, so it's not like you have to worry about like, oh, if Jackson Smolik doesn't get the job, is he going to leave or something like that. But it's more just like, why would you want somebody to rest on their laurels instead of viewing like the entire summer as like you're still in an active competition, like you still need to keep pushing it.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And something Casey talked about yesterday, not necessarily in relation to the quarterback position, but again, all that audio is up on the site now. Casey Keeler, Dante Atten, Carl Hardin, and Brian Ginn, the special teams coordinator, all talked after Tuesday's practice. But Casey had said, yeah, I'm a little bit more willing now, and I'm paraphrasing him here, to heap some praise upon guys because there's no spring portal window. But yeah, Kyle brings up a great point. Why would you say, okay, this guy's our starter? Reasonably speaking, I think Jaxon Smolik and Ajani Sheppard, because of wanting an opportunity, I would be surprised if either one of them just said, oh, great, I'm set, and comes out and has like an awful preseason camp. These aren't guys that have started games before. But again, why would you give them that level of comfort when they haven't earned it? Plus, I mean, I think, again, just in case if you happen to be listening to this pod for the first time, if you're unfamiliar, every single practice in the spring is open and will be open to the media. And it's kind of hard to call right now. Both these guys have their moments, both good and bad. And that's kind of how Evan Simon was at this point last spring. We would kind of look around and say, I really hope Giovanni McCoy comes in and pushes him, because he just kind of looks so. There are throws that Ajani Sheppard makes where like, oh, he really looks like a guy who has progressed. And he's been pretty self-aware. When we got him last week, he said, hey, when I first got to Rutgers, I was not, he just said it wasn't good. And he talked about how much Kirk Schrock helped develop him. He's looked at times more decisive and more comfortable than Jackson has. Now, at the end of practice yesterday, Jaxon Smolik made a great throw to Reese Stocksdale and put it right on him, right over the safety. Reese Stocksdale, I kind of wrote this in my story yesterday. By no means am I comparing him to A.J. Brown, but he had like light hands where he just literally just put up his hands at the last second, sold it well. And I thought, okay, Jaxon Smolik looked really good there. And that was with the second team offense. So these guys are splitting reps. I don't know that they're tipping their hand either way. But this will be a little bit more interesting this time around because both guys are on campus at the same time. I don't know. It's hard to call based off of what I've seen.
And even going to talking about how like the difference between Jaxon and Ajani with like sometimes Ajani looks a little bit more poised, especially in the pocket and in the backfield and stuff. On Saturday when they had their first scrimmage, there were times where when when the defense would pressure Jaxon, he just kind of looked just a little bit frantic trying to get the ball out or just maybe getting out the pocket to kind of scramble away. And when the same things would happen with Ajani, it would sometimes be a little bit more okay, calm, collected. I'm gonna step up and then fire throw,
Yeah.
or I'm gonna step up and then step up, keep stepping up in the pocket and maybe come up and make a good run. He had one on Saturday where I think it was Cameron Jones came in, come in and would have been a sack, and Johnny just kind of like stepped away and found Jace Freeman there for probably like a 5-10 yard game on just a little out route. But then there were other plays where he had Ramir Hardy wide open on an in, underthrew him. And then Jackson Smollett came in, had JoJo Bermudez before he ended up getting hurt on a deep fly route and just like hit it right in the bucket. So there's times where there's a little give and take with both quarterbacks, honestly.
Yeah. And I think that the staff last year was about as genuine as they can be. I don't take these guys to be used car salesmen in terms of like what they try to sell to the media. We've said this before. I don't expect any coach to be completely honest, but we were just talking about how gimmicky Jeff Collins used to be. But again, hey, the guy had a nice 2-season run at Temple. But yeah, I really do think this is a truly wide open competition. Mentioned that we got Brian Ginn yesterday. Interesting getting a chance to talk to him. We talked about special teams, talked about how, again, you can listen to that entire interview up on the site right now. Talked about how sometimes one of the things I asked him about is it easier to sell blocking to your punt teams when you have a guy that could break it. They have continued to double down and said that we think we have the best punt returner in the country. Of course, JoJo had one callback last year and then a few bigger returns. Yeah, at least one touchdown call back. And, just Brian talked about, hey, let's not give the officiating crew any ammo. Casey had said, hey, later on the following week, we had an officiating crew tell us probably wouldn't have made that call again. But Brian Ginn, you can listen to him talk about just JoJo's punt return ability, adjusting to Dante Atten. Dante Atten also spoke on Tuesday talking about, hey, when this staff came in, I wasn't sure if they were going to retain me because I'm a rugby style kicker, but Brian Ginn talked about, and Brian Ginn's a guy that's been with Casey Keeler, been around him since Delaware, was I think a consultant or an analyst at Sam Houston State before coming here. So in terms of special teams, it was actually like a pretty productive interview session in terms of getting a lot of interesting stuff from those guys. Thought we would play the entire Carl Hardin audio for you. Again, we talked to Carl every once in a while. Thought he was pretty entertaining. There's a part of the interview here that you'll hear him talk about just about the discipline of like, hey, it's like swinging a golf club. As long as I'm fine on my technique, I don't feel like this pressure to get my range up to 62, 65 yards. If I am swinging my leg the right way, I don't worry about range. I can probably hit from 60 or beyond. Talked about like more of his mental approach. You'll hear a story here, and I thought this kind of cracked me up. He said, I distinctly remember being at Army and I could hear somebody in the crowd yell, "Watch out for the wind." And that got into my head. And I was asking him if he had like a calming moment or like a song that he has in his head, kind of like Maddox Trio had with that Natasha Bedingfield song. So here's the Carl Hardin interview from yesterday. We're going to, after that, get into a little bit of like I said, hopefully a fun thought exercise, a little bit of this or that with football and basketball, and then we'll jump into the mailbag as well. Carl, same thing for you. Like, what's like next in your progression as a kicker? Is it saying like I want to knock my range out from this yardage out to this yardage? Like, how do you like set goals like that?
I think for this off season, most of my goals are going to be for mental stuff. Because right now, if I swing and I hit a good contact, that ball is going to go far enough for anything we're going to need to kick in the games. But I do think my mental could get a lot better. For the last season, I learned a lot. I feel like I always remember the misses more than the makes, but I noticed on some of those misses, I felt my mental slipping up a little bit. Like I felt something where I like noticed something from the crowd I shouldn't have noticed. I should have been focused on the kick. So really developing that mental allowed me to be as consistent as I can. That stroke.
Where do you kind of feel like you've gotten better over the offseason? Also, where did you aim to get better over the offseason?
Kind of feel like I've gotten better with my accuracy still. I've started off spring decently, not as good as I would have liked, but we got a lot more practice to go. I really feel like through the season, just getting those in-game reps is something you can't replicate at all in practice, so that helped a lot. And really just the trust with the operation. Like, I've been with Dante now for 3 years, working with him 1 year in season, and with Sam too. We got a great thing going right now, and we're going to keep building on it.
How do you feel like your spring's going so far?
I feel pretty good. I mean, not as good as I would have liked to start off, but had a good day today. I want to keep building on that. Just working on end-over-end clean ball. It's going to cut through the winds of the link.
No conditions or play a factor, but like, where's your length right now? How far out do you think you can do?
Well, if we really needed it, say end-of-half situation, I think I'd feel comfortable about 60. But, like, for the normal in-game, like middle-of-a-quarter situation, I'd probably say about 55 or 50 to 55, I'd say, if the wind is not in my face.
What is, like, if you're willing to talk about, what is, like, the mental approach right before the kick? I remember talking before the kickers, like, they've got a song that goes through their head or some, like, sort of mantra. Like, do you just, like, blank out? Like, what is that mental thing that blocks out the crowd? Like, do you have your own trick?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say so. I mean, definitely don't want to be focused on any of the external stuff. I remember at the kick I missed at Army, I remember hearing one of the fans, like, watch out for the wind or something. Like, I shouldn't notice that.
Yeah.
That's the thing I got to keep dialed in. So I try to have a swing thought that's like just a few words that helps me focus on these specific things. And I can just kind of keep repeating that in my head to block out the noise and then go through with the kick.
So Max didn't try to talk into that Natasha Bedingfield.
No, that's a good way to do it, though. I think that song's pretty chill. I think that helped bring him down to where he needed to be for the kicks.
How you felt Darren's done so far?
He's done really good. He's been putting the pressure on all spring, hitting straight balls. Yeah, he's having a great spring.
The miss you had against Navy last year, is that one you're still kind of shake your head about because it was going right down the middle and then just took like a hard but it just caught the wind, right? There's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for that one, I left my right hip back just a little bit, allowing the wind to catch it more. I think if I had hit a cleaner ball, it would have cut through the wind better. So that's definitely one I think about a lot. I don't want that to happen. But I think that's another one where I felt like something was just a little bit off with my mental. When I was in the back of my stance, I wasn't fully locked, and I think that's where I need to improve most.
How much of that really is, like, process? Like, not that playing quarterback is easy, but sometimes they can have ball center throws, they can throw it sidearm. There's a bunch of different ways they can get pass off. For you guys, like you said, it's like your hip is like one tick off, and it controls everything, almost like swinging a golf club. Like, how much of it is that just precision type stuff?
I mean, I think it's pretty much all precision type stuff. Like, any little, like, we play golf pretty recently. I'm still a beginner, but it's very similar to that swing. Like, any sort of weird, awkward movement, it's going to throw your kick off. So that's why, really, it just all my practice is two motions, really, two mainly at least, kickoff and field goal. But just got to perfect that, make sure I'm going at a rhythmic motion, and it's got to be the same every time, no matter the distance.
Are there kickers that you've studied that you emulate in the league that you like?
Yeah, I really like watching Jake Elliott. He's got similar metrics to me, and I feel like a similar swing overall. He does a great job of getting straight down the field after his ball contact. So I love watching him. He's got a fast, strong leg. The ball pops off his foot, and I think that's kind of a NFL role model I try to base my form off of.
You guys ever, just being in the same town, have you ever gotten a chance to meet him or been down there or at the link?
Yeah, briefly, when I was a freshman here, him and Aaron Sapas and a couple of their other players came to the EO and had a little kicking session. Unfortunately, I had class that day, so I was there for about 10 minutes to watch, but it was cool to meet him. He's a great guy.
How's the mindset changed, or just how's it different just coming in as the incumbent and having a year under you as opposed to last year? Though you kind of thought you'd be the guy, you still had to kind of earn the spot.
Yeah, I mean, definitely still got to keep going. My mindset, I really just don't want to ever be satisfied. I think if I'm not hitting the ball dead straight every time, I still have a lot of room for improvement because I do believe one day I could get there. But the mindset's really just to keep my head down, make sure I'm continuously getting better, and gaining confidence with each team rep.
I thought this would be kind of a fun thought exercise for us, a little game of this or that. So I'm going to throw 5 this or that scenarios at you guys, basketball and football related. Maybe we'll mix in the next episode some women's hoop stuff with this. So this or that, number 1. You guys tell me what's more likely here. Temple football wins 10 games in 2026, or the Temple men's basketball team wins 20 games? Colin, let's go with you first. What's more likely? Adam Fisher's Temple men's basketball team wins 20 games in his fourth season at Temple, or Casey Keeler's football team wins 10 games in his second season?
I would probably say basketball. I'm more of a college basketball person. Basketball to win 20 games, but I think it would be more beneficial to Temple if football were to win 10 games. I think that would draw more attention if the football team would go out and win 10 games and make a pretty solid bowl game. That probably even puts you in contention for the conference if you win 10 games.
So you're content with Adam Fisher losing his job?
Not exactly what I said.
Wait. Is this you would prefer this to happen, or do you think it's more likely to happen?
More likely.
Oh, more likely to
Yeah, more
happen.
likely.
Oh,
It could be either or. No, that's good though. I like the way in which Colin showed his work there. I like that.
I think it is. I think it is also probably more likely then for the men's team to win 20 games. I think the football schedule is much harder coming in. Although a lot of those teams that made the postseason lost their head coach, there's still a lot of talented football teams on that schedule. I think they could get like 7 or 8 wins, but 10 wins feels a little bit of a stretch in the second year. I feel like basketball is more likely to reach 20 wins. Obviously, it's no idea who's going to be on that roster next year, what a schedule is going to look like. But I think it's more likely for basketball to win 20 games as opposed to football winning 10 games.
But to your point though, for a second, let's say football goes 10-2, and that puts you in a conference championship game. They win a conference championship game and get into the
It's
college football
way
playoff.
beneficial for Temple with that.
Financially beneficial. So
yeah.
interesting. Kyle, what about you?
I would agree with that, mostly because I think there's probably 20, 25 teams that win 10 games a year in college football, and there's 150 that win 20. I think it's just, like I said, we're all making a lot of assumptions because it's March and we don't know anything about the schedule. But my gut tells me that you'll see kind of like a repeat of this year, where there's a fair amount of easy out of conference games that I think kind of paved the path to make 20 more attainable. Because you're talking about like 3 or 4 games, 3 or 4 bounces going a different way in basketball this year away from them being a 20-win team. I think that'll be the same case next year.
I'm also going to go Temple men's hoops wins 20 games. Kind of like Kyle said, I'm expecting like them not to play cupcakes, but like not as strong out of conference schedule, kind of build that palette before getting into conference play. And in conference play, especially this year, you saw that they were really couple games where they could have won, especially in that 6-game losing streak, where if a ball just bounced a different way, they could have picked up a win. The only thing is going to be we've kind of seen it since Adam Fisher was hired here, they've had a lull kind of.
How many wins in February again, Ryan? In the Adam Fisher era, in 3 seasons at Temple, how many games has Temple won in the month of February under Adam Fisher?
They've gone 6-15.
Yeah. Question number 2, this or that. Number 2, Gavin Griffiths returns to Temple and matches Darian Ford's numbers of approximately 18 points per game and 38% shooting from 3, or Derek Morton Rivera as a true freshman comes in and averages 7.5 points per game in his first season at Temple. Ryan, I'll start with you. What's more likely? Derek Morton Rivera, who had a very good senior season at Father Judge, led them to a repeat Philadelphia Catholic League championship, comes in next year and averages 7.5 points per game as a freshman, or Gavin Griffiths returns. On last week's show, we all kind of went around the horn and said we expect him to return. Or Gavin Griffiths returns and matches Darian Ford's numbers of 18 points per game and 38% shooting from 3. What's more likely?
Honestly, I'm gonna go Gavin, and not saying that it's like very likely to happen. I do think that for this to happen, he's gonna have to work on his consistency to be able to shoot and score, not all the time, but be able to do that and not go on like a month-long lull that we saw last season. But I'm more applicable to save Gavin just because we've seen how he's able to play. We saw him be able to translate his game in the American Conference, and saw that when he's on, he was probably one of the best scorers on the team last year compared to Derek Morton Rivera, where he's coming in, he's 18 years old, and just kind of having that that transition where we've seen, and especially with how we've seen Adam Fisher like be with freshmen. I was looking at Zion Stanford's stats his freshman year. That's kind of how I was trying to compare it. He had 6.6 his freshman year, but even then we kind of saw it where there was a month where he was not even really in the rotation for a little bit. After that game against VCU, he didn't really come back into the rotation full time until the end of conference play, that UAB game in March, where he was just kind of in and out, in and out, in and out. Same there, we kind of saw that with Dylan Battie last year. Not saying that they are like the same type of players, but kind of like comparing a little bit. Aiden Tobias was more of a defensive player. Then this year was given kind of the mantle of being like, okay, we want you to score a little bit more. So I do think that transition of just coming in, being 18 years old, he's playing a lot of guys that are going to be in their 20s. They're going to be 21, 22, 23. That's a very hard transition to come in as an 8-year-old and kind of just come and be like, okay, you need you to score 7.5 points per game. Or who are they even going to be adding onto this team this year? Are they going to be keeping like a guy like Aiden, a guy like Gavin, and who are they going to be adding to what's this rotation even going to be like? Is there going to be a spot on the rotation for him to even have the opportunity to score 7.5 points per game? That's where I'm kind of leading Gavin here.
Colin?
I agree with Ryan. I think, especially kind of on that last one with the rotation, it's kind of tough for me to quantify because we don't know who might be in that rotation with Derek Morton Rivera
That's why it's a fun
in the
thought exercise.
backcourt. It is. I do like.
It's a thinker.
If we go off of kind of our projections from last episode, we all projected Aiden Tobias to leave, and if that's true, that definitely opens some minutes. But we've never really seen Adam Fisher be overly reliant on freshmen. I mean, last year, Baba and Aiden started almost every game, but they weren't relied on to be scorers. And I don't think that would be the same for Derek Morton Rivera. Like Ryan said, he'd be playing against guys who are much older than him, assuming they bring in a transfer or two who can go out there and score at the level that we've seen like Darian Ford and Jamal Mashburn Jr. do. But I mean, I think it's more likely that Gavin averages like Darian Ford numbers, but I don't think that's necessarily his role, what he'd thrive in the best if that were to happen. Where I think he's better in that secondary role of like a really good defender, a good 3-point threat on the wing. I don't think he's really like that role of a leading scorer is like best fit for him, but I think it's definitely more likely he goes out there and does that as opposed to Derek Morton Rivera coming in as like an 18-year-old kid and averaging 7.5 points per game.
Kyle, what do you think?
I agree a lot with Colin, where I think it's easy in today's day and age to assume a freshman can just come in and hit the ground running because you see it everywhere in the country. You don't see it that often at Temple. Since the turn of the millennia, John, there's been 8 Temple freshmen that have averaged 7.5 points per
I know
game.
when Kyle really wants to drive home a point when he offsets.
How many can you name, John?
Offsets my name in commas.
How many can you name, John?
Since the
Wait,
turn of the
Kyle,
millennia,
what's
there are
that?
8
Since 2000, true freshmen that have averaged 7.5 points per game
At Temple?
at Temple.
Lavoy Allen,
Yep.
Mark Williams.
Nope. No.
Why did I think he?
Because he started that first game against Penn, and then that was it.
Since the turn of the millennia, so this is the end of the Cheney era.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a couple years left in the Cheney era. I'll tell you straight up as a hint.
Marty Collins.
Marty Collins is one of only 3 Cheney people on this list.
Alex Wesby.
No.
Juan Fernandez.
No.
I'm not doing too well.
No, you're not.
Can you give me a hint?
NBA assistant.
NBA assistant.
Current NBA assistant.
Well, it wasn't Khalif.
Also not an
He's the
NBA
G
assistant.
League. Yeah. TJ.
No. You think TJ DeLeo came in and averaged 7.5 points?
Current NBA assistant. Why am I
Played for Cheney and Dunphy.
Oh, Tyndale.
Yeah, Tyndale. I'll just go through the rest. It's David Hawkins, Marty Collins, Mark Tyndale, Lavoy Allen, Quentin Rose, Nate Pierre-Louis, Jeremiah Williams.
Oh, Jeremiah Williams. Okay. Okay.
And, and Zach Hicks. Zach Hicks did it as well.
Block.
Oh, wow.
So, to that point, if he comes into the point that they have to rely on him to score 10 points a game, it kind of goes against everything I would expect for this team. My expectation is that they're going to do what they did this year, where they're going to bring in 4 or 5, 6 guys in their last year of eligibility. And those guys are not coming into Temple to take a backseat to an 18-year-old freshman, would be my gut reaction.
I am going to, and I promise I'm not doing this for the sake of being different. I'm going to use a point that Colin made, which is all things being equal. I mean, I agree with you guys. You guys are all making really, really good points. I think that if Gavin Griffiths comes back, not that Adam Fisher would implicitly say to anybody, I need you to be our leading scorer this year. I don't think I guess a coach could say that, but I think that if you put that on Gavin, I think he might be like, oof, okay. Because we've seen confidence is a huge, huge thing for him. It's something that he very much has to work on in the offseason, whether he comes back to Temple or whether he goes somewhere else. I think that if things flow more naturally for him and he's taking shots within the flow of the offense and not forcing things, I think he's in a really good place. I could see him, look, if he Again, averages 18 points a game, shoots 38% from three. I think everybody's pretty happy with that. I think I see him falling in a healthy scenario, like a little shorter of that. I am not trying to build up Derek Morton Rivera to be a freshman All-American, but I do think he is a lot more prepared to make an instant impact than a guy like Cam Wallace. And I agree with you, Kyle. Like I could definitely see if you're Adam and if his budget doesn't change much, of course he'd like to get an impact big, but I think he'll probably rely on a lot of guys like that Darian Ford archetype where it's like guy with something to prove in his final season of eligibility. But I do think that because Derek Morton Rivera has played for a team, he's been a winner in high school. He's shown the ability to play well against good teams and score in the mid range. He isn't a guy that just camps around in one area of the floor. I'm going to try to remember these, go back and we'll log these just for the hell of it. I'm going to go with Derek Morton Rivera, 7.5 points per game as a freshman. Scenario number 3, Asa Locks gets 4 interceptions in 2026 at cornerback for Temple, or Kevin Hornbeek, the transfer from Division II Tiffin, registers 6.5 tackles for a loss. Kevin Hornbeek brought up a second time yesterday by KC Keeler. Again, we've said 5 million and one times. It's early, but I asked KC again after Tuesday's practice, okay, you're a little bit more comfortable talking about guys, not worried about a spring portal window. Brings up Kevin Hornbeek's name again. Now, again, it's also early. We've got a question later on in the mailbag about how the secondary looks. Asa Locks, a guy that Clayton Barnes said that could step into a starting role. Again, it's early. We've got a question later on in the mailbag about how the secondary looks. But Asa Locks, JUCO guy, or Kevin Hornbeek, a D2 transfer. 6.5 tackles for loss for Kevin Hornbeek as an interior defensive lineman, a nose tackle, or Asa Locks, 4 interceptions, a corner. What is more likely? Kyle, let's start with you.
I'm going to say, I think 4 interceptions is a lot to ask.
Yeah.
It's something that's only happened 30 times in Temple's history. Last person did it, Delvon Randall did it 3 straight years.
Pride of Gateway High School.
But yeah, Delvon Randall had a very good career at Temple. So like that's a good season that he did 3 straight years, as opposed to tackles for a loss having at least, 6 or 6.5?
6.5.
6.5, that has happened 107 times. So
Kyle Gauss, best Temple stat guy in the business.
Kyle Gauss's SQL database.
Kudos, Kyle.
I need to learn these. Kyle, I need to learn these ways.
There's no learning of these ways. You every now and then Ryan gets a little pep in his step and he asks me like, Kyle, can you teach me how to do this? You have to do the work. What you're really asking is, Kyle, can you just give me your database? That's what you're asking.
No. I tried to go find some not niche stuff. I've tried to do some boots on the ground journalism.
That's what I'm telling you. It's not
Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground.
Shoe leather reporting. That's another cliche.
I'm in the mud.
In the mud.
Shoe leather reporting.
Shoe leather
Never
reporting. Heard that one?
I've never heard that one.
Oh, you heard it now.
gumshoes. That's what I'm telling you. Is it's not easily available. I had to consolidate from so many different sources into one thing, including, if you could pan over here to my bookshelf, just a crap ton of media guides that I had to digitize and I had to bring into a data format. So what I'm saying is spend about 11 years doing that and then go from there.
Yeah.
Anyway, to answer the question,
his eyes just opened up wide like I'm not doing that. Anyway, go ahead.
yeah, you shouldn't do that. But to be fair, it's taken 11 years because more stuff comes in, more seasons happen, right? Yeah, so that has to be added. I will say Kevin Hornbeek, although I don't think either of these are likely scenarios.
Okay.
Like Kevin Hornbeek is a guy who did not put up those stats at Tiffin. So now we're expecting him to do it at Temple.
Yeah. Again, fun thought exercise. Colin, what's more likely? 6.5 tackles for a loss from Kevin Hornbeek, or Asa Locks gets 4 interceptions?
I think it's 6.5 tackles for loss. I agree with Kyle. 4 interceptions feels like a lot. I don't think I've seen a player get more than 2 in my time here for Temple. I feel like both position groups are still kind of wide open in terms of who's going to be playing. So it's realistic that maybe neither of these happen, but I feel like we've brought up Kevin Hornbeek a couple times from KC Keeler. Like maybe he's starting to establish himself down there, but that's a position group with so many new players that it's tough to say what role he's going to play. Same thing with cornerback with Asa Locks. There's a handful of new JUCO guys or guys kind of stepping into those starting roles. So I think that one's probably the toughest one for me to kind of figure out, but I think it's going to be Kevin Hornbeek at 6.5 tackles for loss.
Ryan, are you now ready to answer the question?
Yeah, I do think it's Kevin Hornbeek, honestly. Getting 4 interceptions as a cornerback, one, like Kyle said, is like not many cornerbacks at Temple have done it, but also it's just very difficult as a whole. Means one of a couple things where you're either getting targeted a bunch and not really sure you want that. So for me, a successful season for like Ocelots or any of the cornerbacks would just be, even if they have less interception numbers, they aren't getting thrown to as much because they're shutting down either that player, that side, or that side of the ball. But I do think with the type of rotation that they run with the defensive line, where it's kind of like a rotating door where so many people are coming in, especially that defensive tackle room where they lost a couple people there last year. And Casey's kind of talked about Kevin Hornbeck a lot. I do think that kind of puts him in a better position to kind of get 6.5, and I do see that happening. I'm not sure how likely either are happening, but I do see that happening a little bit more, and I would kind of rather that a little bit more than having 4 interceptions.
I'm gonna let Casey Keeler burn me again. I'm gonna go with Kevin Hornbeek. Just as last season he said, I think that Tyrese Whitaker could be a double-digit sack guy. Tyrese Whitaker is no longer here. Wish him the best. Another thing, if you check with the official pronunciation, you click on the little ear icon. It is Asa-Lox.
Asa?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You hear him pronounce his own name. So Asa-Lox.
Once again, Led Astray by Ryan Mack.
God.
Once again.
Come on, just jumping
Fool
on.
me once, shame on you. Wait, no. Fool me once. Yeah, fool me twice, shame on me. Won't be fooled again.
Great Who song. Do you know who the Who are?
No.
Famous, super famous rock band.
You don't you've never heard of the Who?
Mm-mm.
My generation.
I've probably heard their songs. I can't tell
Pinball
you.
Wizard.
John, you're just
Get fooled
spewing
again.
nonsense to me right now.
I'm gonna send you to like a school rock band. Just send like Colin Schofield to like.
You
the
could be
school of
saying
rock.
any combination of words right now, and it would all mean the same to me.
There is a school of rock in Downingtown. We'll send Kyle. We'll send.
I thought with this segment you were making a reference to The Choice Is Yours.
Mhm.
You can get with this, or you can get with that.
I know that song.
You've
I know-
heard that.
I know that song. I just don't know who that's by.
I believe he's heard that because that was on a Venmo commercial.
Probably.
Maybe.
Probably.
Although I'm sure the Who have been in plenty of commercials.
Yeah, they're raking in a lot of royalty money on commercials. So, two more here. Question number 4: Carl Hardin hits a 61-yard field goal in 2026, or JoJo Bermudez gets 2 punt returns for a touchdown. Start with you first, Ryan.
I think it'll be Carl Hardin can get a 61-yard field goal, honestly. And one of my main reasonings with this is too, we kind of saw it last year a bit where JoJo was kind of getting taken off the kind of like the kick return, the punt return duties. One, because of how good he is as a wide receiver, but two, if he's that good, he's had injury history in the past, and even if it happened on Saturday, where he ended up getting hurt, ended up going on the bike, as much of a difference maker he can be in the punt return game and the kick return game. If he's that good for your offense, you do not want him getting any extra reps or any extra hits that could get him hurt again. That is honestly my main like thinking about why I do think that this is more possible. If JoJo's getting almost most of the punt return reps this season, I do think it is possible that he could get 2. But if you're a guy like Casey Keeler or Tyler Walker, do you want to risk some guy that can be so viable for your offense at times for a chance that he might get hurt returning a punt, returning a kick? But we have seen Carl Hardin's leg where he had a couple kicks last year where even if he missed it, he was so close to getting them in. And I do think this year he could get a 61-yarder.
I agree with Ryan. I think it's Carl Hardin. I don't really have any stats to base this off of. This just kind of is like more of a fun one to me because we saw how good JoJo was last year returning punts, and Casey said he thinks he's the best punt returner in the country.
Career long
on Tuesday.
52-yarder for Carl Hardin last year. Again, 11 of 14 last year. So it's 78.6%, almost 79% on his field goals. 3 of 3 from 20 to 29 yards, 5 of 6 from 30 to 39 yards, 2 of 3 from 40 to 49 yards, and then 1 of 2 from 50 plus. And again, that long was a 52-yarder.
And I feel like we saw him get close to making a couple longer than that. We've seen him hit close that distance in practice a couple times. So he has that ability of doing that. And I mean, Max Trujillo would give him so much praise going into last season, how the second best kicker in the conference was sitting behind him. I think there's that to go with that. And I don't know, again, Kyle might have the stat. I have no idea how many times 2 punt return touchdowns have happened in a year at Temple, but
have that stat.
I knew he would.
You just heated. That was.
I don't. So
Will that be the highlight of the day? They queued you up.
I have two children under the age of 6. Every
I
moment
know.
with them is the
That's
highlight
a
of my
fun
day.
question. Your eyes were beaming. I don't know if Kyle has to stop. Kyle was like, sorry.
So I'll kick it over to Kyle.
Need
'Cause
my help?
I don't know how often someone's done that in a year. I think JoJo has the talent to do that, but again, that
That's
feels
good podcasting right there.
that feels like it's
Covered-
rare. So
you guys.
Yeah, so I'll-
who are the who?
I'll redeem myself. I'll kick it over to Kyle for that stat and his thoughts on it.
It's happened 3 times. Last time it happened was Isaiah Wright, who actually I think had 2 in the span of like 5 games. So I remember being like, why are they still kicking to him? Also, Delano Green did it, and Anthony Young did it. So, but to that point, I'm also going to go with Carl Hardin because I think Carl Hardin hitting a 61-yard field goal is directly, one, obviously, he's involved in it, and Temple's involved with it, but the other team's not involved with it, right? Like, Temple's making the decision to roll him out there and have a 61-yard field goal. If JoJo Bermudez is out there and he's returned a punt return for a touchdown 2 weeks ago, odds are most teams coming in are just going to tell their punter, don't punt to him. Like, put more air underneath it. Like, don't make this a returnable ball. I don't think I'm as worried about him getting injured or anything, or like them pulling it back on his special teams because they want him more on offense. Because 2 things. One, I don't think injuries on punt returns happen all that often anymore. Like that's not like an unnatural, like he's not jumping up for a ball and leaving his body exposed and he can get drilled and come down weirdly. Like, you're just kind of running. And then 2, I think they have a lot more depth at wide receiver. So like I don't think they're going to be as worried about, we need to like make sure that JoJo has full gas. But I still agree. I think Carl Hardin going out there, that could be the end of it. Could be exactly what happened when Trujillo hit his, of just like, it's the end of the half. We have 2 seconds left. We're not going to be able to get into the end zone. Screw it. Put him out there and see if he can make a long kick. I think that's more likely to happen over the course of a season.
I'm gonna go with JoJo. Again,
JDC, and the C stands for contrarian, because I think you've taken the opposite on everyone.
No, again, and I'm not just saying this for the sake of saying it. All very relevant points, especially with like, hey, let's trot Carl Hardin out there for a 61-yarder. We got nothing to lose. Let's take a shot at this. If he misses as the clock expires, no big deal. They sound like a staff that really want to get JoJo Bermudez going and saying like that really could decide a game or 2 for us. And we were so close last year, and that could really flip a game for us. I see Carl Hardin topping out like 57, 58 yards this season again would be great. And again, he talked extensively about this on Tuesday. As long as I control the swing of my leg, great. I think I'm good. I also like initially, and saying this on March 25th, I like their receiver depth a little bit more this year. I think you'll see some more targets to restock still. Again, I'm saying this and they don't know who their quarterback's going to be yet. So this is a bit of a leap. I think Ramir Hardy's going to take a leap. He's not the same receiver as JoJo Bermudez. Reese Stocksdale, smaller in stature, could maybe be like that slot guy. I think they're going to try to really, really set up, not that they didn't try to set up returns last year. I'm going to place my bet with JoJo Bermudez here, getting 2 punt returns for touchdowns. Even I could see him, I think he's crafty enough where even if somebody kicks the ball away from him and he picks one up off the ground, I think he can make something work there.
Do you think he can get back? Get back, JoJo?
Oh, Colin.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. I was looking at something on my computer. What Kyle said.
Whoa. This is becoming an ongoing bit.
Jenny, I was looking at something for TTN, and I completely missed that part of the
No,
Look,
okay.
John, I know it's an easy crutch for us. We need to start limiting our children's screen time.
Yeah.
I wasn't on my phone. I promise it wasn't my phone.
You're looking at different. You're looking at big screen, so small screen. It's still screen.
He was, in fairness, he was preparing for some Temple News work, but you're not going to get this. So Kyle made a reference. He's talking about JoJo Bermudez. He said, do you think he can get back? And they said, get back, JoJo. Ryan, would you get that reference?
I have no idea what you're talking
Get
about.
back, JoJo.
No, I don't. Actually,
It's a music reference.
nah. I'm so sorry.
It's a music reference that Colin has no chance of getting.
In fairness, as much as we tease him for Beatles stuff, I get it. It's a line from the Beatles song "Get Back" with Billy Preston. Billy Preston sitting in on this session, elevating that record.
My fault, everybody.
I like that, Kyle. Good job. All right,
okay.
Fifth and final, this or that. Peter Clarke gets 50 receptions, or Keveun Mason as a sophomore rushes for 700 yards.
I want to start. I keep going last.
Sorry, I was gonna go to you.
I think Keveun Mason is going to have a big year. I think honestly, I think both of these happen. If I'm being honest, I think that these are reasonable expectations for both of them. I think even with the stable of running backs, and they think they can have 4 running backs out there, and Sam Brown's looked good in the spring, I still think this staff wants like a guy to take most of it, the same way you saw like Jay Ducker last year. I think Keveun Mason becomes that guy, gets his 200 some carries, and goes for more than 700 yards. This is more likely.
Yeah, so for Peter Clarke, that would be a jump of 20 receptions. He had 30 catches for 483 yards and 6 touchdowns last season. Keveun Mason, 28 carries, 167 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, was behind Jay Ducker, Hunter Smith, at times Joquez Smith. But I agree. I do think both of these could hit. Kyle's going. So you're officially going both, but are you going like if you had to
I'm thinking neither of these are like unreasonable. Although that being said, no tight end at Temple's ever had 50 catches. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect both, but I think if I had to choose one, I think Keveun Mason rushing for more than 700 yards is that one.
Colin, your choice.
I agree with Kyle. I think both of these are the most realistic to happen of like this group of scenarios that we've done. And I'm going to go with Keveun Mason as well. I think the offense is going to cater more towards running the ball. And I think he showed some really like, good potential near the end of last season, kind of breaking off some runs. I think he got in the end zone a couple times as well. And then again, they brought in Sam Brown. They have Hunter Smith still. I still think RJ Blunt's going to be a factor in the backfield as a freshman. That's just my own personal opinion, but I think he could be a factor. So it might be a crowded backfield a little bit, but I think Keveun Mason kind of take control of that and rush 700 yards. Again, no doubt in my mind that Peter Clarke can't reach 50 receptions. I think that's more than plausible for him, especially if he builds on last year, but I think it's more likely for Keveun to reach 700 yards.
Yeah, I do think both of these things are very, very, very plausible to happen. I do lean a little bit more Keveun Mason reaching 700 yards just because, like everyone's kind of said, they are more their game plan is to run the ball, and from running the ball, then that leads to being able to open up the pass and be able to get everything there. But also leading into that, we've also talked about how much depth they kind of have in their pass catchers, where they've added some more depth this year, but then they've also returning JoJo, they're returning Colin, Pete's coming back. Pete's able to build on it, but since the 2020 started, they've only had 2 people hit 50 catches, and in those years, it's kind of happened. Well, I don't remember much of Jose Barbone with 2022. That was my freshman year. But when Dante had,
I don't remember the Jose Barbone 2022 season.
He had a really good year. He almost had 1,000 yards.
I know.
Yeah.
He had a very good year. I'm just talking about 22.
He spent some time with the Cowboys after that. Jose.
Jose Barbone was a very good football player.
Yeah, just because it was my freshman year, I was going to the games. I wasn't like fully in depth, like covering the team and everything like that. But I remember when Dante did it last year, and that was also kind of when. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2 seasons ago. But when that would kind of happen was because they didn't really have anyone else to throw the ball to.
Brian is emphatically making his point, putting his hand on the table here and really driving the point home.
They didn't really have anyone else to throw the ball to. I can't really say the same in 2022, but that was kind of the case with Dante. And I think with now, even though I do think Pete can do it, they have so many people that they can just give the ball to, where you don't just have to rely on, okay, we need to get Pete the ball for our offense to have success. As much as we kind of saw on Saturday, he had he had one really long touchdown run, pass and catch on Saturday, and that's two
almost identical routes, yeah,
and that's just running
routes,
just right down the middle of the field, got wide open. Another one happened too, literally same kind of route, just running like a little seam down the middle. JoJo got wide open, the same thing. Safeties and cornerbacks just miscommunication. They couldn't get that there, but I just think they have so much depth in that with their pass catchers that I do think they might be able to spread a little bit more. Not saying that he won't get 50 catches, but I just do think that with all that depth, it isn't necessarily super duper needed for this offense to have success.
As cute as it was that Ryan went back 6 years to look things up, it's happened 13 times in Temple's history. Only one player has done it twice.
I could tell Kyle was waiting to pounce.
Only one player has gone over 50 catches twice.
Ryan got up from his chair and is walking around.
Ventel Bryant did it twice, 54 in 2016 and 51 in 2018. He's the only player to do it 2 times.
I also think it's adorable that you call him Pete several times.
Do you think Pete's the best?
Stop. Okay, that was a good one.
Pete Best.
That was a good one.
Colin, do you get that reference?
It's literally in our group chat name.
Yes, I saw it in the group chat name, and I still don't understand it. Sorry, guys. I'm
the original drummer of the Beatles.
Still don't know him.
I just told you him. That's his.
I'm telling you, I still did.
He's the original drummer of the Beatles. He was out of the band before Beatlemania took off.
And why do we refer to Jacob as Pete Best?
So it's actually the opposite. So if anything, John's Pete Best. Because it's not the newest, it's the oldest.
Yeah.
Although he wasn't the founding member, but yeah.
Yeah. Again, two things. I think it's adorable that you referred to him as Pete Clarke. Again, nice touch. I'm going to go with Peter Clarke getting 50 receptions. The only reason I give him the edge, again, I think both these guys are more than capable of doing this. Sam Brown we were kind of given the impression that by a couple of people who covered the team that, again, he had a knee injury. He looks good in the spring. He is their tallest back. He's their biggest back. There are a couple of people who've kind of remarked, like, yeah, he kind of looks closer to what he looked like in high school at LaSalle. By no means am I saying that he's going to rush for 1,200 yards. I do think that Keveun Mason will be their lead back, but with Hunter Smith coming back, with Sam Brown looking like legit, with maybe, and again, I'm not trying to pile on backs, because again, I think even if they open up the playbook, I don't think Tyler Walker wants to have like 4 or 5 guys carrying the ball unless it's happening in a blowout in either direction. But I could see Keveun Mason falling into that like 500-600 yard range, but still being a very impactful back with Hunter getting a few hundred yards, with maybe one of the freshmen getting a few hundred yards, and with Sam Brown getting some tougher yards inside. I don't know. Again, there's one guy we had talked to who covered him at Rutgers, and I don't know that the guy made him sound like a complete like reclamation project, but he looks good. Sam Brown looks good. Again, the guys have to stay healthy, but I'm going to go with Peter Clarke because I think there's just as much depth in the running back room as there is among the pass catchers.
Health has always been the thing with him. Rutgers, for all their warts, is really good recently at producing running backs. Mm-hmm. Like they've had 2 really good ones come in lately. So yeah, I mean, it might be a situation where he's just behind, 2 future NFL backs and is finally getting his opportunity.
One of whom just absolutely excoriated Temple a few years ago, Kyle Monongai, just
with the Bears now.
Yeah, very good back for the Bears.
Yeah.
Helped me win a few fantasy football games last year.
He had a pretty good game against the Eagles, right, on Black Friday?
He did, Ryan.
Sorry about that.
I don't care. It's the truth. I embrace the truth about my team's good, bad, or indifferent. Or you just kind of keep your head in the clouds.
Ryan, when you don't have to rewind your clock 20 years to remember your franchise's peak, things like that happen. Like there's ebbs and flows. It's all part of it's a long NFL It's a long NFL season.
This isn't fun anymore. You're right. I'm sorry. I should have kept my mouth shut on that one. You guys are so right.
Stan.
No, you're right. No, you're so right. I'll say it with my chest next time.
Yeah, exactly.
I got you.
Before we jump into the mailbag, as always, you're going to hear a tip from our friend Mike Greenspan of Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers, as he says each week. If you need his services, he's the best injury lawyer you could hope to find, but he wants to keep you safe in life so that you don't need his services. So here's his weekly tip, and then we're going to jump into the mailbag.
Now that the clocks have changed, the morning commute and sometimes the evening commute, you're driving right into the setting or rising sun. And if you're facing it, so are your fellow motorists. So be very, very aware when you're going around a curb or when you're driving in these time of day that the other drivers on the road may not react very well to the sun. They may slam on their brakes. They may drive a lot slower than you would expect for the conditions. So be careful, be aware, because if you're involved in a car crash and your excuse is you were driving into a sun, that's your problem. You have to make sure to have sunglasses. You have to make sure to have your visor down and be aware for conditions. Stay safe, everyone.
All right, a few questions to get to this week. First one from the screen name. This is from our football message board. The screen name is Santana25. Do you know who Carlos Santana was? The musician.
Oh, no. I was thinking of the baseball player.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Generational talent as a guitarist. Do you know? Well, I just told you who it was. Would you have known who Carlos Santana was?
Maria.
Maria is so good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Santana25 asks us, how is the DB room this year? Thought we were okay last year, not good enough. How do we look? So we'll throw this out there. Again, this is a March 25th look at the defensive backfield. I've seen this. Ryan's seen this. Adrian Lang and Denzel Chavis are your early starters at corner, first team. And then when they're in a package where they're playing, which I guess is their base, really, the 2 safeties in that Viper, Hugh Lawton, Avery Powell, and Zael Powell have been at the early starters as safety. Earl Culp, good sign that the Purdue transfer has seen some second team reps. This is more a special teams thing. I thought this was kind of interesting, not talking about the defensive backfield in this sense, but Jet White is getting some early work at punt return behind JoJo. One of the things that I asked Brian Ginn about yesterday was like, okay, again, JoJo's been injury prone. If you have to, talk about some of the other possible replacements here, if you go back and listen to that interview, Jet White was named that popped up there. So if he's not starting a corner or getting a lot of reps at corner, could be a factor in the return game. But so that's an early look. How do you guys, again, for what it's worth on March 21st, to answer that question, how does the defensive back room look this year? Do they have, let's frame the question this way, do they have a chance to be better than they were last year? Hopefully the answer is yes for their sake, because there were some games where the secondary completely broke down. The Navy game, some of the other games they gave up chunk yardage, the safety's not lining up right against Navy. Kyle, I'll start with you.
I think also Sabor Kareem, somebody to look out for, the Illinois transfer. I think they have a good mix. Like that DB room, I think it was interesting that they didn't go in and bring any like straight portal guys in for corner. I think they have some fair amount of faith in Denzel and Adrian Lang. I think a good thing that's going to help them, and we've talked about this, is I think that wide receiver room is better than it was. So I don't think it's all of a sudden going to be this huge step up in competition, because I think in practice they're going up against some pretty good wide receivers in Colin Chase and JoJo Bermudez and so on and so forth. I think it's been a couple years since Stubble's had like a real solid secondary. I think they're on the path to having a decent league average secondary this year.
I honestly do think they're going to be a little bit better this year. Obviously, they have a lot of faith in Adrian Lang, Denzel Chavis when they're coming in as starters in the spring ball this year, but when like Jalen Casper had to get pulled or Beno Sweke had to get pulled, they were the first two that they plugged in, and just being just a little bit more 1 year under the system under Brian Smith. Even Devontae Ward Grant has come in when he's kind of come in with the twos. He's had some good pass deflections. Darren Harris, the safety from Chester, had a really good hit in that scrimmage on Saturday. But honestly, they do look good. I do think there's just going to be just the way that they've been one to play with their secondary, moving everyone around, being a little bit more comfortable in the second year in the system is always going to be a big thing. The defense has been a little bit better than the offense, which I do feel like is always going to be the main thing, especially in spring ball. There's a little bit less installs that you have to put in on the defensive side than you do on the offensive side, and especially coming in when you're having two quarterbacks who do not know the system kind of coming in play. The side that has the most returners and has less stuff that you actually have to add on to that defense is going to look a little bit better in my opinion. But these guys have come in, they've looked pretty decent, especially just for their youth. They've looked good, and you can see that they just have a lot of trust in them to kind of be able to play against these guys, especially next year.
As Kyle said before in a previous episode, maybe a couple of weeks ago, it's been a while since they've actually really developed somebody. So that would be nice. My short answer to this is I think they'll be better this year, and if they are not, I think they still stall out around like the 5 or 6 win mark. Kyle mentioned last week, 26 touchdown passes, 2 picks for Evan Simon. That should have been enough to get you 6, 7, maybe even 8 wins. But again, that secondary, you hear some of the classic coaching terms like misalignments, misfits. You hear misfits in terms of like run gap, gap integrity for linebackers, but it happens with safeties too. I think they'll be better. If they're not, this is a repeat of last season. Next mailbag question here comes from the screen name TJ Clarke on the football front. I know it is early in the recruiting cycle, but are there any strong Temple leans, any intel on who is coming to camp or is high on Temple's priority list? Temple seems to have some momentum from last year's class. Can they keep things rolling? I think they can keep things rolling. TJ, we'll have a better answer for you in terms of leans in a couple of weeks. We'll get some better, more dependable and more reliable recruiting information for you in, I would say, early to mid April. And again, if you are not an owlscoop.com subscriber, 50% off portal deal. Portal is going to be more active for basketball, but we'll have better and more reliable recruiting information for you that we will post first for subscribers on our football board. So I would say check back with us in a couple weeks on that, TJ. TUL08 is the screen name on this question. Why won't the administration buy all the way in for sports? Why are they just content with mediocrity, being generous with that phrase? How can fans force their hand to spend more to jumpstart the programs? With success, the money will come in. Seems like a simple fix. It's getting really hard to care about these programs when the university does not. So common sentiment right now among the fan base after basketball season. One question I'll kind of like lean in on here, and then I'll get out of the way and tip it over to you guys. How can fans force their hand to spend more to jumpstart the programs? Kyle said this before. Look, I'm not trying to knock a $500 donation, a $1,000 donation, a $2,000, $5,000 donation to the Competitive Excellence Fund. They need more than that. They need bigger donations, corporate stuff. So again, I completely get the sentiment of TULOH's question here, but it's going to take more than just fans jump starting. Fans could jump start it either way or may affect change in either way. I think on one hand, they're trying to affect change by not showing up to games, by speaking with their wallets and or lack thereof. So this is the sentiment that we're getting a lot on the boards and social media. It's just not, we're not breaking any news here, but guys, what are your thoughts on this one?
I think Temple Athletics funds its programs perfectly fine as far as just general line items on a budget. I think their athletic budget is $70 million. I think when you spend $70 million towards athletics in the American Athletic Conference, you should be able to compete for championships. My holdup and my criticism, soft-spoken at times, loudly at others, is the way that $70 million is allocated. I think it's a very 1990s way of budgeting an athletic department. I don't think there's been any flexibility or pivoting or adjustment to modern college athletics, which unless you have a wand and you can wave your wand if you're John Fry and add $20 million to that $70 million, say here's $90 million, spend $20 million in rev share, then you got to get some of that money by reallocating things within the budget. I don't think the people that have their ability to change budgets within Temple Athletics have done that. I think they allocate too little to rev share. So I think in their mind, though, that's not an issue. I think in their mind, they run the athletic department the way they want to. They fund it the way they want to. I just think I disagree. I think reality disagrees. And I think the results disagree. But to answer your question of how does that change, I don't know. As far as I feel like a come to Jesus moment should have already happened, right? Like how many more times do you have to be hit in the face with you go up against this team and they spend X amount more and look at this big center they have now, or you spend this team, look at this, or how'd they get that wide receiver to transfer from Alabama to North Texas or whatever it might be. Like there's so many proof is in the pudding moments. I don't think there's going to be any big light bulb on oh, this is what we can do situation. I think unfortunately failure is the only real way that failure I don't know. I don't know the answer to what happens. I think Temple's attendance has already plummeted to the point that you would have thought it would show up on somebody's radar.
Last question to close us out here, unless we have any late contestants on the message board. The screen name is Berkshire Owl. This question may require an entire episode to address, but let's give it a shot. Saw this morning that North Carolina's coach was fired because the boosters couldn't come up with $12 million to meet the cost of the players. This is an every year thing. Is this something that most colleges want to do? If this is the problem at North Carolina, how can this continue? I've been a longtime supporter of Temple Athletics, but this makes competition unrealistic. What are your thoughts? Andrew Hope and I talked about this a lot on last week's episode. There are suggestions about transfer limits, spending caps. When Louisville's president, athletic director, and their chair board of trustees are saying hey, we are one of the main economic drivers here in a non-pro sports city, and we're seeing athletics losses. This is a problem. To go back to Kyle's point, he's advocating that they spend more in rev share. I don't think anybody's expecting Temple to spend $12 million on their roster. If they did, it would be a generational wealth type of collaboration there where somebody or a few donors would come in and say, hey, we really, really want to make this work. But yeah, when you see North Carolina, again, Hubert Davis being dismissed after 4 seasons. Is it 4 seasons at North Carolina?
Yeah, 4 seasons.
So you have to remember what the expectations are at North Carolina, a once proud program that is seeing Duke make advances. They're seeing other programs, making advances and saying that should be us, that should be us, should be us. So this goes into I asked Andrew last week about, do you think we'll see donor fatigue? And one of Andrew's answers was, hey, it's one of the few things that we can always count on is people are competitive. They're competitive with their money. Of course, paraphrasing here a little bit, but I get it. When you see that North Carolina is well, we're making a move. And if the boosters are saying if we can't come up with $12 million, we got to move on here. But do I think that this current model of college athletics is sustainable? No, a lot of people don't. I'm not breaking any news here. I think this question for Brooks Shaw just taps into like everybody's complaints. I've said this on previous episodes. I have friends that are Villanova grads that were kind of like, yeah, it was nice to win this year again. I'm still kind of just so on it. And I'm not even talking about Kevin Willard getting all the wrong headlines for making a joke about firing a staff and him being abrasive. I'm just talking about people saying it's hard to, like, again, the other thing that Andrew talked about last week, it's hard to build up the same following you did. If you're a Nova fan, there are no more steady growth situations with Randy Foye, Alan Ray, Curtis Sumter, those guys that helped turn things around for Jay. At Temple, you're not seeing the steady growth of a Khalif Wyatt, a Ramon Moore, players like that. It's just different now. But I think when people see, wow, North Carolina's making a move, they couldn't raise $12 million. Is this sustainable? No, I think my thoughts on this are what a lot of other people's thoughts are. There needs to be some reform. How that happens, if it's going to happen. If you go back and listen to my interview with Andrew last week, Andrew Hope, I think that touches on a lot of this, but I'll get out of the way here and let you guys chime in on this one.
Short of, the SCORE Act passing through Congress and actually bringing in legislation, or an executive order being put down that'll immediately get challenged in the courts and not actually do anything, short of some actual change to the format, which I do think will happen eventually. I do think there's enough groundswell support behind this sucks. Let's see if we can fix it. I don't think it's all of a sudden going to go back to 2007 where it's you get a guy and he's here for 4 years and when he transfers, it's an outlier. I don't think there's going to be situations like that. I think the obvious answers in the short term and easiest way to do it are transfer restrictions where you can transfer one time, and basically what it was between 2014 where you had to get a waiver, but everybody got a waiver from 2014 up until 2020 or 2021 or whatever. We lived with that. People were fine with that. That will happen eventually, but in the interim, with the North Carolina example, I think the current state of college athletics is money is willing to keep coming in when the results are good, and money is very reluctant to come in to be the harbinger of change for when things were bad. Yep. It's basically if things are bad, they stay bad, and if they're good, they stay good. I think North Carolina I think the phrasing of this question was they couldn't fundraise the $12 million for the roster. I don't think it's couldn't. I think it's wouldn't. Yeah. Because the boosters that absolutely exist from North Carolina were why would I keep throwing away $12 million a year towards this product that doesn't meet my expectations?
They don't want Hubert Davis. They want a different coach.
Right. They're going to bring in some guy else. It's arguably a top 3 job in college basketball. Yep. It's the blue chip of all blue chips. They're going to bring in somebody else, and all of a sudden those tight wallets that didn't want to give $12 million are going to be more than willing to give $12 million. I think if you want to apply that to Temple, that's not the most positive thing because Temple's had bad results for a couple of years now. And if I'm a guy that's sitting on a nest egg and is debating where not to donate money, there's probably some hesitancy there of why would I throw away money against a history of mediocre results. I think if you're Temple in the long term, you're hoping that there's some type of legislation that gets you on a little bit more of an even footing. Because right now, I think it's just hard for people to convince themselves to be I will be the one to change this in today's college athletics.
Well said. Well, that's going to do it for this week. We'll have more for you next week. More spring football talk, any portal updates. That's coming soon. Again, good time to subscribe to alscoop.com, and appreciate all the mailbag questions. Keep them coming. As I say each week, it helps us set the agenda for the show. If you guys have a great week, I think we're supposed to get some better weather later this week.
Next Thursday is supposed to be 84 degrees. I got sunburn on Sunday.
Yeah,
you can see
I can see. Yeah.
Yeah. I got some color from just being outside on Sunday.
You look like you went on a ski trip. You've got almost like a goggle.
I think I always notice that on the Zoom. I think that's the Zoom doing it.
You're Zoomsman. Hair looks good there. Yeah, look good.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good beard, good beard line. Yeah. Kudos Kyle again.
Kudos Kyle.
Always circles back to
I look
Kyle.
like a backup utility infielder. I'm just here to get through. I can play third, sure.
It's 8th inning. We got to get Kyle out there from the short. All right. Thanks again for joining us on The Scoop this week. We will talk to you next week.